Next is the giant of self. And this can be the hardest one because sometimes we let self get in the way. Self-doubt, self-fear, self-conscience. And sometimes self can be our biggest enemy. 1 Samuel 17:38. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. He armed him tonight with a coat. God has armed you tonight with a shield and a coat, a fortress. And there's nothing that you cannot face. You can face all your demons, all your giants head on with Him by your side, and know that He'll never leave you and He'll never forsake you. While you're standing there in the midst of the storms, He'll be there. When you're standing in the trials and tribulations, He'll be there. When you're fighting against fear and doubt and self, He'll be there. When other people are ridiculing you and making fun of you for what you're doing, He'll be there. When everybody else says you can't make it, God says you can. When everybody else says you're a failure, God says you're a winner. When everybody else says you're nothing, God says you're somebody. There's a lot of somebodies, but there's a whole lot of somebodies because everybody's somebody. But there's a lot of people that think they're nobodies, but they're somebodies. You have been chosen tonight. You have a plan. God has a plan for your life. God formed thee while thou wast still in thy mother's womb. He knows all about you. When He was on the cross, He was on His mind. Today could be a new day. Face your giants and be strong, and know that the Lord is by your side. Have no fear. Have no doubt. Don't give up, and don't quit when the quitting's good. Just because it's easy to turn back, it's a whole lot harder to go on and have the faith. God never promised us no bed of roses. He never said life would be always easy. But He always said He'd be there with us. He said He'll never leave us and never forsake us. Sometimes we turn our backs on God because we give up and we just throw up the towels and say it's over. Because we can't face our giants. What's your giants today? Are you riddled with doubts and fears? Are you riddled with self? Are you riddled with the people that's told you that you never amount up to anything? If I listened to everything everybody ever told me, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. If I listened to everything everybody told you, I wouldn't be preaching for over 20 years. Over 14 years, I mean. So I preached when I was 20 years old. I'll be 35 this month. I only did preach for 2 years of my life. In those years. Because I took a back seat. No time to take a back seat to nothing. It's time to move on to your destiny. It's time to face your giants. It's time to face your fears. Get the sword of faith right there with you. Get the breastplate of righteousness and the helmet of salvation. And arm yourself tonight as a mighty warrior for Jesus. And with Him, there's nothing that you can't face. There's no mountain too high, no valley too low they cannot get to you. It's time you stand up and fight. You got that right to fight. You got that right to stand. I remember when I was growing up, there was an old song, and wasn't Christian, but it was when I was about 13, 14. I listened to a lot of rock music, and they had the Beastie Boys. You got a right to fight, to party. Well, look at it this way. You got a right to fight, to live. You got a right to fight for your destiny. You got a right to fight for your salvation. You got a right to fight for that plan that God has in your life. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies those who He calls. And if God's tapping at your heart's door tonight telling you to go and do something, don't listen to everybody else. Listen to Him. I preached a message a long time ago on this broadcast on Open the Doors on Blog Talk Radio. It was listen to the 9, not the 1. Because in every 9 you'll hear everybody tell you that you can do something. But so many times we listen to that 1 that says we'll never mount up to anything. There's also a message that says I'm somebody. Because I am somebody, not you're somebody. God makes no mistakes. He made you, He molded you, and He created you. Stop dwelling on your failures and your mistakes, because everybody's made them. But start dwelling on what you can be, because that's what God sees in you. He don't see your failures and mistakes if you ask Him to forgive you, because He puts you in the sea of forgiveness. He don't see what we look like on the outside. He don't see how much money we have. He don't see who we're with, who we're married to, who we're dating. He don't see your job titles. He sees your potential. He sees what you can be. God is the one person above all else that has faith in you that you can succeed. Many people in our life has faith in us, but none has greater faith than Him. And He proved that when He came down this earth and allowed them to nail Him to that tree. I've been doing a Bible study the last few days about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. And throughout every night of it, I've told you that at any given point in time He could have stopped it. When He stood before Pilate, He could have stopped it. When Pilate told Him He had control, and He had control of His life and death, He Himself, Pilate, did. But God said no. Jesus said no. Because you see, He had a plan. He was predestinated, and He knew it. When the heavens and earth was created, He knew it. When He created man, He knew it. When Noah built the ark, He knew it. When the angels come before Mary and said, "You're going to conceive a child." He knew it as He lied there in a manger. He knew it as He grew up a carpenter's son. He knew it. And God has a plan for your life tonight. Face your fears. Don't let no one tell you that you can't. Because God's with you. And you're not facing your giants alone. Because He's right there.